Hey, welcome to World Code Updates. Please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for more updates. Breaking news. Across international headlines, the heirs of the Sulu Sultanate have made a bold move, seizing Malaysian assets in a dramatic escalation of a conflict that many thought was buried in the past. This action has reignited the age-old Sabah dispute, sending shockwaves through both Malaysia and the Philippines, and stirring up passionate protests and heated debates on the streets and in government halls. For decades, Sabah, a lush, resource-rich territory on the northern tip of Borneo, has been a persistent flashpoint in Southeast Asia. Its fate remains unresolved, with its diverse population of over 3 million people often caught in the crossfire of political maneuvering and historical grievances. Recent legal victories by the Sulu heirs in international courts have dramatically escalated the conflict, transforming what was once a matter of quiet diplomacy into a high-stakes global legal and political battle. The courtroom has become a new front line, with billions of dollars and national reputations at stake. This isn't just a border squabble, it's a struggle over national pride, vast natural resources, and the economic future of Sabah's people. The outcome could affect the livelihoods, security, and identity of everyone living in this vibrant region. The Philippines periodically revives its claim to Sabah, citing historical agreements and the legacy of the Sulu Sultanate, while Malaysia stands firm, defending its sovereignty and the will of Sabahans who have chosen to be part of Malaysia. Both sides invoke history, law, and national identity, refusing to back down. The world watches nervously, aware that a single misstep or escalation could destabilize not just Malaysia and the Philippines, but the entire Southeast Asian region. International organizations and neighboring countries are keeping a close eye, hoping for a peaceful resolution. With the South China Sea already a hotspot for territorial disputes and military tensions, the Sabah issue threatens to add even more fuel to an already volatile situation, raising fears of broader conflict and uncertainty in the region. The real question remains: how do we balance the weight of colonial legacies, the complexities of international law, and the modern realities and aspirations of the people who call Sabah home? Whose voices should matter most in deciding Sabah's future? Join us as we unravel the tangled web of history, law, and human stories at the heart of this dangerous and deeply personal controversy, one that could shape the destiny of an entire region for generations to come. Who truly owns Sabah? Malaysia, which has governed and developed it for over 60 years, or the Philippines, whose claim is rooted in the Sultanate of Sulu? The answer depends on which history you believe and which voices you listen to. Was the 1878 agreement a sale, as Malaysia claims, or a lease, as the Philippines insists? And what about the people of Sabah? Do their voices matter, or are they just pawns in a political game? The legal maze is daunting. Colonial treaties, post-colonial commissions, and modern international law all collide here. Annual payments to the Sulu heirs, rent or cession money, only deepen the confusion. Ultimately, the Sabah question is about the clash between historical rights and present-day realities. How do we weigh the lived experience of Sabahans against a centuries-old document? To truly understand Sabah's present-day identity and the ongoing disputes that surround it, we must journey back through the layers of its complex and fascinating past, where empires rose and fell, and borders were drawn and redrawn. In the early 1700s, following a bitter civil war, the Sultan of Brunei, seeking to reward loyalty and military support, granted control of North Borneo to the Sultan of Sulu. This act was not just a gesture of gratitude, but a pivotal moment that would echo through centuries. This historic transfer of territory forms the very foundation of the Philippine claim to Sabah, a claim rooted in centuries-old agreements and royal alliances. For more than 100 years, the Sulu Sultanate maintained its rule along the coast, collecting tribute and influencing trade, while diverse indigenous communities thrived in the lush interior, preserving their unique cultures and traditions. But in the 1800s, the arrival of European colonial powers, driven by ambition and the lure of new territories, would change the fate of North Borneo forever. In 1878, two enterprising Europeans, Baron von Overbeck and Alfred Dent, entered into negotiations with the Sultan of Sulu, seeking to secure rights over North Borneo for commercial and strategic interests. The resulting agreement, whether it was a lease or an outright sale, remains hotly debated to this day, and lies at the very heart of the modern territorial dispute. Under mounting pressure and changing political realities, the Sultan accepted an annual payment in exchange for territorial rights, a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. But the crucial question remains, did the Sultan truly cede sovereignty over the land, or did he merely lease it temporarily? The ambiguity of the agreement continues to fuel passionate debate among historians and politicians alike. This single unresolved question, born from centuries-old decisions and documents, continues to divide Malaysia and the Philippines, shaping the region's politics and the lives of its people to this very day. The 1878 agreement is the smoking gun at the heart of the Sabah dispute, an old document, written in Jawi script, whose meaning has been fiercely debated for generations. It is a single piece of paper, yet it has been interpreted in two completely irreconcilable ways, shaping the destinies of nations and peoples. The Philippines, along with the descendants of the Sulu sultans, argue that the word pajak in the agreement means lease. According to their view, sovereignty over Sabah was never truly transferred, it was merely rented out, with the Sulu heirs retaining ultimate ownership. For them, the agreement was a business transaction, not a surrender of territory. On the other side, Malaysia and the British government insist that the agreement was a permanent cession. They claim the payment made was cession money, a final settlement, not rent. In their eyes, the British North Borneo Company, and later the British Crown, had full legal rights to the territory, which they eventually passed on to Malaysia. The British North Borneo Company administered Sabah for decades, followed by direct British colonial rule. In 1963, after a United Nations-backed commission found that most Sabahans favored joining Malaysia, the territory officially became part of the new federation. This was seen by many as the final word on Sabah's status. But the Philippines never accepted this outcome. They argued that the British had no right to give away what they did not truly own. For Manila, the transfer of Sabah to Malaysia was an act without legal foundation, and they have continued to protest it for decades. If the 1878 agreement was indeed a lease, then the transfer of Sabah to Malaysia would be illegal, a violation of the rights of the Sulu heirs in the Philippines. This legal argument has fueled countless debates, court cases, and diplomatic protests. Adding to the controversy, Malaysia continued to make annual payments to the Sulu heirs until 2013. The Philippines sees these payments as undeniable proof that the agreement was a lease, and that the Sulu heirs are the rightful landlords of Sabah. Malaysia, however, insists these payments were nothing more than a goodwill gesture, a token of respect for historical ties, not an admission of tenancy or ownership by the Sulu heirs. Decades have passed, but the two sides remain locked in a historical and legal stalemate. Negotiations have repeatedly stalled, with neither side willing to compromise on what they see as a matter of national pride and historical justice. Each nation is utterly convinced of the righteousness of its cause. The dispute has sparked passionate rallies, heated debates, and even legal battles in international courts, with both sides refusing to back down. The ambiguity of one word, pajak, has fueled more than a century of conflict, misunderstanding, and diplomatic tension. It is a reminder of how a single phrase in a treaty can shape the fate of entire regions. Today, the world is left to interpret a document written in a different era, in a different language, with consequences that still echo in the present. The legacy of the 1878 agreement continues to cast a long shadow over Southeast Asia. The question remains, who truly owns Sabah? Until the past is resolved, the future of this land will remain uncertain, caught between a deal and a deception. The Philippine claim rests on the belief that the 1878 agreement was a lease, not a sale. Payments continued for over a century, reinforcing their view that sovereignty was never surrendered. The shared culture and history between the Tausug people and Sabahans strengthened the Philippine narrative of reunification. For many Filipinos, reclaiming Sabah is about correcting colonial injustice and restoring national heritage. The claim has never been dropped, and recent legal victories in Europe have given it new momentum. For the Philippines, this is about more than land. It's about righting a historical wrong. The legacy of the Sultanate of Sulu still shapes Filipino nationalism today. Malaysia's case is built on self-determination and decades of governance. The 1962 Cobbled Commission found most Sabahans wanted to join Malaysia, a decision endorsed by the UN. Malaysia argues that the will of the people trumps any ancient claim. The annual payments, they say, were part of the sale, not rent. Payments stopped in 2013 after an armed incursion by Sulu claimants. Since 1963, Sabahans have been Malaysian citizens, voting, working, and building their future within Malaysia. Billions have been invested in Sabah's development. For Malaysia, the question was settled by the people, not colonial masters. The claim is, in their eyes, a closed chapter. Undoing it would be both absurd and destabilizing. For nearly 4 million Sabahans, the dispute is distant noise compared to daily life. Sabah is a land of natural beauty, economic growth, and vibrant multiculturalism. Its people, Kadazan Dusun, Bajau, Murut, Chinese, and more, have forged a unique Sabahan identity. Most Sabahans see themselves as Malaysians, not Filipinos. Their lives, education, and aspirations are tied to Malaysia. While some want more autonomy, few desire a change in nationality. The Sulu Sultanate's claim is history, not a roadmap for the future. For Sabahans, 60 years of Malaysian identity outweighs colonial-era documents. Their future is Malaysian. What if Sabah joined the Philippines? The idea is fraught with risk. Proponents see it as historical justice and a chance to reunite divided families. But the economic shock would be severe. Sabah is deeply integrated with Malaysia, and a sudden shift would cause chaos. Public services, infrastructure, and living standards could plummet. Social upheaval is likely, as most Sabahans identify as Malaysians. Forced nationality change could spark unrest, or even calls for independence. The legal and bureaucratic transition would be a nightmare. Such a move would set a dangerous precedent for border disputes worldwide. The risks far outweigh the symbolic gains. The Sabah dispute can't be solved by aggression or legal battles alone. True resolution requires peace, respect for international law, and, above all, the will of Sabah's people. Colonial-era claims must give way to modern self-determination. Dialogue between Malaysia and the Philippines is essential for regional stability. The Sulu heirs' claim may need a final settlement, but Sabahans' voices must come first. For over 60 years they've built their lives as Malaysians. The world must honor their right to choose their own future. If Sabahans were given a free choice today, what would they decide? That's the question that matters most.